We now continue into 1 Corinthians chapter 3, where Sha'ul exposes spiritual immaturity, rebukes man-centered boasting, and reorders the assembly around God's field, God's building, and God's holy dwelling. This chapter does contain explicit Tanakh citations, Job 5 verse 13, Psalm 94 verse 11. These references support the burden of the chapter with direct force. Job 5 verse 13 shows Yehovah catching the wise in their own craftiness, which strikes at the arrogance of fleshly leadership culture. Psalm 94 verse 11 declares that Yehovah knows the thoughts of man and sees their emptiness. Together they reinforce Sha'ul's warning. Worldly wisdom, party spirit, self-important evaluation have no place in the house of Yehovah's building. Infancy, to division, to planting, to growth, to building, to testing, to temple, to boasting ended. Yehovah gives the growth, tests the work, and claims the house. Yehovah, deliver us from childish pride. Teach us to build with fear, purity, and truth. Make us worthy stewards in your holy house. Yehovah El Chai, the living God who actively plants, grows, examines, and dwells among his people. Yehovah El Chai, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. Please fill me and lead me, and cover me and stir me, and speak through me with your Ruach HaKodesh, your Holy Spirit, your set-apart breath, that I may speak your written words with boldness and humility to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed, the Aleph and the Tav's name. Amen. We'll start with the Shema. Listen and obey. Children of Yehovah, pay careful attention and respond. Yehovah is our power and authority. Yehovah works in unity, echad, with himself, and you shall act upon your love, ahava, to Yehovah with your power and authority, with your thoughts and mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Yod, He, Vav, He. Hand, behold, now, behold. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. As for me, brothers, I couldn't talk to you as spiritual people, but as worldly people, as babies, so far as experience with the Messiah is concerned. I gave you milk, not solid food, because you were not yet ready for it. But you aren't ready for it now either, for you are still worldly. Isn't it obvious from all the jealousy and quarreling among you that you are worldly and living by merely human standards? For when one says, I follow Sha'ul, and another, I follow Apollos, aren't you merely human? After all, what is Apollos? What is Sha'ul? Only servants through whom you came to trust. Indeed, it was the Master who brought you to trust, through one of us or through another. I planted the seed, and Apollos watered it, but it was God who made it grow. So neither the planter nor the waterer is anything, only God who makes things grow. Planter and waterer are the same. However, each will be rewarded according to his work. For we are God's co-workers. You are God's field, God's building, using the grace God gave me. I laid a foundation like a skilled master builder, and another man is building on it. But let each one be careful how he builds, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Yeshua, the Aleph Natav, the Messiah. Some will use gold, silver, or precious stones and buildings on this foundation, while others will use wood, grass, and straw. But each one's work will be shown for what it is. On the day, we'll disclose it, because it will be revealed by fire. The fire will test the quality of each one's work. If the work someone has built on foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If it is burned up, he will have to bear the loss. He will escape with his life, but it will be like escaping through fire. Don't you know that you people are God's temple, in that God's Spirit lives in you. So if anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is holy, and you yourselves are that temple. Let no one fool himself. If someone among you thinks he is wise by this world's standards, let him become foolish so that he may become really wise. For the wisdom of this world is nonsense as far as God is concerned, inasmuch as the Tanakh says, he traps the wise in their own cleverness. And again, Yehovah knows that the thoughts of the wise are worthless. So let no man boast about human beings, for all things are yours, whether Sha'ul or Apollos or Kepha, or the world, or life, or death, or the present, or the future. They all belong to you, and you belong to the Messiah, and the Messiah belongs to God. What is the Hebrew word that encapsulates this chapter? Bana, to build. This chapter centers on how Yehovah's house must be built carefully, truthfully, and under his inspection. Tanakh spine, Job 5 verse 13, Psalm 94 verse 11. These references anchor Sha'ul's argument against carnal boasting and false wisdom. Yehovah overturns crafty thinking and exposes the emptiness of man's proud calculations. So the chapter does not merely rebuke bad attitudes, it places the entire assembly under divine scrutiny. The work, the workers, the motives are all being weighed before God, who sees. Chapter flow. Sha'ul begins by saying he could address them as spiritual people, but as fleshly, as infants in Messiah. He fed them with milk rather than solid food because they were not yet ready, and even now they still show signs of immaturity. Their envy, strife, and divisions reveal that they are walking like mere men rather than as a people shaped by the Spirit. Their slogans, I follow Sha'ul, I follow Apollos, prove that personality allegiance is still governing their thinking. Sha'ul then reduces both himself and Apollos to their right place, servants through whom they believed, each assigned by the master. One planted and another watered, but the decisive act belonged to God alone, because Yehovah gave the growth. Therefore, neither the planter nor the water is ultimate. Both are nothing in comparison with the God who causes life to emerge. Even so, each servant has real responsibility, and each will receive his wages according to his own labor. The assembly is then described as God's field and God's building, shifting the imagery from agriculture to construction. Sha'ul says that by grace of God, he laid a foundation like a wise master, builder, and another builds upon it. Yet every builder must take care how he builds, because no other foundation can be laid than the one already laid, which is Yeshua the Messiah. Different materials may be used in that building, gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, but the quality will not remain hidden. The day will disclose each work, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work remains, the builder receives a reward. If the work is burned up, he suffers loss, though he himself may yet be saved, but as through fire. Sha'ul then intensifies the warning by reminding them that they are God's temple and that the Spirit of God dwells among them. Therefore, anyone who destroys God's temple invites the judgment of God, because the temple is holy and they are that temple. He then commands them not to deceive themselves. If anyone thinks he is wise in this age, he must become a fool, so that he may become truly wise. Job and the Psalms are then brought forward to prove that God catches the wise in their craftiness and knows the futility of human thoughts. The chapter closes by cutting off all boasting in men. All things belong to the people of God, and they belong to Messiah, and Messiah belongs to God. Infancy exposed, to servants humbled, to foundation laid, to works tested, to temple guarded, to boasting ended. Core theme. Sha'ul's burden in this chapter is to expose the disgrace of spiritual immaturity in a people who have received real grace, yet still think in fleshly categories. Their divisions are not minor personality difference. They reveal that the Corinthians still judge by man, boast in leaders, and fail to see the assembly as something sacred that belongs wholly to Yehovah. The chapter then moves from rebuke to structure. The assembly is not a platform for admiration. It is God's field and God's building. That means every servant is subordinate, every labor is accountable, and every act of ministry will be tested. Sha'ul refuses both rivalry and flattery because neither survives the day. The only foundation is Messiah, and everything built on him will be exposed for what it truly is. Then the warning deepens. This is not merely a construction site, it is the temple of God. The Spirit dwells there. The corrupt divide, to corrupt, divide, or damage that holy dwelling is to invite divine judgment. So the chapter ends where it must. Boasting in men is madness. All things are already ours in Messiah, and therefore we are free to stop living like spiritual children. How can we learn to love Yehovah with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength? We can love Yehovah by refusing childish envy and party spirit, and by honoring his assembly as holy ground. Love Yehovah by building only on Messiah and taking care how we labor before his coming fire. Love Yehovah by rejecting worldly wisdom and receiving his evaluation above human applause. How can we learn to love our neighbors as we love ourselves and as Yeshua loves us? Refuse to divide the body by exalting one servant over another. Honor fellow believers as stones in God's holy dwelling, not as rivals. Speak and serve in ways that strengthen the house rather than damage it. How can we bear one of those burdens? Help immature believers grow beyond envy, comparison, and fractional thinking. Labor patiently with others as fellow workers under Yehovah's oversight. Guard the peace and purity of the assembly as those entrusted with a holy temple. What are the top 3 fruits of the Spirit found in this chapter? 1. Maturity, boshel. Sha'ul presses the assembly to leave infancy and grow in spiritual steadiness. 2. Humility, anava. Spirit servants must decrease because only Yehovah gives the growth. 3. Discernment, binah. The chapter teaches us to distinguish lasting work from what will burn in the day. What is the mitzvah response, Torah-based? Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. You are to love Yehovah your God with all your heart, all your being, and all your resources. Command. We will build carefully on Messiah and treat Yehovah's dwelling as holy. What is the Hebrew declaration? Al HaMashiach Lavado Nivni Vilo Al Adam Elohim Ho Ha-Noten Et Hatesh Micha Vihu Yivchan Et Hamashiach Chedoshim Anu Ki Mikadesh Elohim Naknu. On Messiah alone we will build and not on man. God gives the growth and he will test the work. We are holy, for we are God's temple. What is the one-sentence summary? Build on Messiah alone. Yehovah will test every work. Now, after having read the chapter and going over it, here are some heart-piercing questions. Where am I still acting like spiritual infant through envy or comparison? Another, have I exalted a human vessel beyond the place Yehovah assigned? Another, what am I currently building that would survive the fire of the day? Another, do I truly see the assembly as God's temple and not as common space? Another, how have I contributed either to the peace or the damage of the house? Another, in what ways am I still tempted by the wisdom of this age? Lastly, what would careful, holy building look like for me this week? We'll end with the Arianic blessing using the name. Yehovah will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he'll provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yehovah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you and set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Shalom, shalom. We now